Welcome to Wilson's Fine Woodworking. Bill Wilson here. What I'm about to show you are a lot of samples I've collected over the years as a teacher, and you're going to have the benefit of looking at these and seeing what can happen if you don't do the right thing when you glue it together. Lumber, most of us are buying and using flats on lumber. That is, on the end grain, it looks like this, okay? And the growth rings try to straighten out. To show you what can happen here if you don't glue it together properly, here's one where you may have, you wanted the look of the lumber. These are just scrap pieces. They were glued together, but if I turned it around, look. You can see that there's quite the arc. That has gone like that. This one has gone like that. And you put them together, you glue there, and you have an enormous arch. Pretty hard to make a flat tabletop with that and to keep it that way. Because they move like that, if you glue, here are some pieces of spruce that were put together, just screwed in the middle to show what can happen. And you can see here, the growth rings tried to straighten out on both sides, and there's a big gap here on both sides. So that is the incorrect way to do it. Here is the correct way. And this is really old. You can see they push against one another like that on the outside, and it's nice and tight here and nice and tight here. And this has a little gap in the middle, but that gap never shows. You could also make this mistake. You could put them together so the growth rings are stacked, in which case you don't know what you're going to get. We got a little gap on this side, a slight gap here. You can see it better on the other side. But it's still going to be cupped on the outside. Still going to be cupped here. Here I have a piece, several pieces of red oak, all from the same rough sawn board. I purposely did this so that the movement would be the same. I cut two pieces, full width. You can see the flat sawn pieces. Flip one over to the other the way they're supposed to be glued together, opposite, over, under. Then I took two more pieces and ripped them, and then it's over, under, under. And you can see, if I hold this to the camera like that, that this side is fairly straight and this side is really crooked. So that should give you a clue as to what I'm about to show you next. I never, when it comes to hardwood, like to use lumber more than 3 to 4 inches wide for this very reason. It shows too much movement when you glue it together. I even use narrower if I'm making something like a cutting board like I'm holding here. And you can see the growth rings over, under, over, under, over. And you must place them like this. Now, of course, everything's machined on the edges so you can glue it together. But there's one more thing that people forget. Look here on the side. The grain direction. You must place them all after you've done this with the same grain direction. If one is fairly straight, it's not going to matter. If you get one that's down at one end and down at the other ever so slightly, you have to live with that. If you don't do this, and one of them is the other way, you can imagine what's going to happen when it goes through the thickness planer. All of them will be smooth, and one will be rough. The grain's going the wrong way. Or, if you put it through the other way, all will be rough, and one will be smooth. So it's really important to have the growth rings the correct way, alternating, and the grain direction. Then you can glue it together. Now, when you're gluing things together, such as a box, it is a really good idea to keep the end grain, the growth rings, in mind. This is not the way to do it. If you see that this is just a miter joint at the corner, look, you see the growth ring there? It wants to move away at the ends. And what's happened here, this is a few years ago, see the little gap there? These are just nailed together. The other one, you can see, that's the proper way, so it pushes in on the outside, makes it nice and tight. It's possible to get a wee gap in the middle. Now, I didn't even fasten it there, but if I did and I glued it, it probably would never show. And here's the bottom of a box with 4 outside pieces, just butted in to the corners. You can see they are all pushing in against the bottom. Helps hold it together. If you do it the other way, you'll have gaps in 8 places. So I hope that'll help you with your gluing up of projects, keeping them together. Thanks for watching Wilson's Fine Woodworking. See you next time.